Welcome to 6-1 Forward. I'm Betsy Goldstein, and today we have Rick Wolfe, CEO and Executive Director of the North Market.
Thank you for having me.
Here. Wow, there's a lot to talk about.
There is.
There's a long history, a lot happening today.
Indeed.
And I'm excited to have everyone kind of follow along. The market building was in the presentation, and there was a lot of excitement as I was showing renderings around it. So to have you kind of tell the story firsthand, I think is going to be really exciting for people to hear.
Thank you.
But before we get into any of that, how did you end up in Columbus, Ohio?
I will try to give you the abridged version. You can pick up my memoir years from now. I grew up here from 3 to 18.
Oh, yeah?
My family was from here. We moved up from New York to here. They wanted me to grow up around my grandparents and such. So, yeah, I grew up the Grandview area and then went to school at UC and said I'm never coming back ever again. Mm-hmm. And then went to Chicago for a good stretch, and then San Fran and Los Angeles for a long stretch. And had a great run out there, but all things must come to an end. And after that, I was just sort of looking at the next thing, and I came back to Columbus, which the city I said I'd never come back to. Right. It changed. I would never go back to that Columbus, I guess, that I grew up to. But when I came back, a lot of great changes, a lot of opportunity, and I had a great base of friends here that I'd never lost, which means a lot as one gets older, I feel. So, then I decided to make a move back to Columbus.
And that was around
2012-ish.
Oh, wow. Okay. So as we talk about 2012 in the city of Columbus, the North Market at that point, when you stepped in, was still vibrant, very active.
Sure.
But the history of the North Market is very long, and it's part of the Columbus
149
fabric.
Years at this point.
Really?
Yes, next year's our 150th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about the history of the North Market and how it came to be and the city's involvement in that?
Sure. So originally, we had 4 public markets. There was Central Market, which was where the Greyhound station, which is now not even a Greyhound.
Right.
Something else is happening there, downtown. There was an East Market, which was Mount Vernon. There was a West Market, which was Franklinton. The building still stands there on Gift Street, I believe. And then us. And as time, the oldest was Central Market. We were the second oldest, 1876. As time went on and groceries started opening, supermarkets, the market, was not as popular of a place to go because you had a supermarket. But in the olden days, all your provisioning came from those 4 markets in Columbus. And you and I spoke about it the other day, but we're called North Market because we were the northernmost part of town.
Just wild.
Which is, right, we're very much downtown.
Right.
I mean, we're right here before the Cap, so
right.
We're downtown, but in those days, we were the north side. And obviously now the north side is many, many miles north of us. So over time, as I said, some just couldn't survive. Central Market was torn down in the 60s. At that point, a lot of the merchants that were there that wanted to keep going came over to North Market because we were the last one. East Market burned down, the original East Market. We burned down once. We burned down in 1948. So we're in our 3rd building. We went to the Quonset Hut, for those that remember, which was in the parking lot, what was the parking lot in front of us, which is where the new building's going. And that was a temporary fix, and it was there from 1948 to 1995, so not that temporary.
Right.
But, no HVAC. I remember as a kid, it was cool, but not probably that cool to have a business in there.
Right.
Or if you're an adult to shop there. So late 80s, the market went from city-owned, city-operated to nonprofit, which is the way most of markets in the country. Cleveland just took this direction in the last couple of years. Now they're a nonprofit. So the nonprofit took it over, did a capital campaign. The city owned the lot in front of us where the Quonset Hut was, and Nationwide owned the building we are in now.
Oh. So
the city bought that, combined the property. So the city of Columbus is my great partner and landlord, and did a capital campaign, remodeled the current building, 59 Spruce, and we moved in there, cut the ribbon in 95.
Wow. And how many stalls are inside?
We're about 35.
Can you walk through what the makeup and how those stalls have come to be as operators?
Well, geez, it's, we still have people like to say, oh, well, it's turned into a food hall, but it has become more of a food hall, but we certainly still have all the fresh elements. We still have a butcher. We have flowers. Market Blooms, Marty's been there 35 years. She came from the Quonset hut. We have a butcher, produce, all those things. We have all the fresh items we've always had, just not multiple ones of them maybe. And also because of the convention center, which you have to understand. I mean, I wasn't here for that, but I think that came along late 90s, early 2000s. So the arena, that's a lot of tourism and people passing through. And clearly they're not buying ground beef.
Right.
So the prepared food piece, and we still have the bakeries, the gifts and spices and all those other things, but we need to be able to take everybody's money that's in the neighborhood.
Sure.
And probably 50% of our business these days are tourism and convention.
I've heard you say on other panels about or talk about the city, the support that the city gives in order for the operators to actually move forward in becoming a viable business at the North Market. Can you share a little bit about what that process is like?
So we're a nonprofit, which
Right.
a lot of folks don't know that. So with that, you have to, you know, we have a mission, and I actually don't want to screw it up, so I have my printed pretty version, but to provide an authentic Central Ohio experience that highlights the diversity and vibrancy of our community, both economically and culturally, by promoting and incubating best-in-class local independent businesses. So there you go. That's the mission. So we obviously want the barrier to entry to be low as far as the cost of rent. Right now, obviously with construction and things that are going on, but our great years, we have over 2 million people walking through the door a year. So, as a small business, you come there and the traffic is built in, which if you have a brick and mortar somewhere in town, someone may never open your door. Right. So that's a big part of it is the barrier to entry and rent and things of that nature, that we keep that as low as possible, to get these people started. The city, over the years, very much has helped us. They own the building. So a building like that, a roof is how many millions? Sure. So they've been very helpful in helping us maintain that building, which last week I just read, but Cleveland West Side Market, which I love, and great people, and they've just turned that into a nonprofit. I said, that building needs $70 million in renovation.
Oh my gosh.
Because the city of Cleveland, no offense, Clevelanders, but everybody from Cleveland loves their West Side Market, but the building was neglected.
Sure. And
so now they have that much to make up. And it's one of the greatest market halls in the world, quite honestly, but it was neglected and now needs $70 million. The city of Columbus clearly, through time, has helped us maintain this building, to keep it up to par. So that's been their biggest role. Really, honestly, I mean, I have a great relationship with the city, but they very much, I care what they think, and I want them to think, to know we're doing well, sure. But they pretty much stay out of it and they're a helpful partner.
I've spent, I don't even want to say how many number of years going to the North Market, clear back in high school when I would come down to Columbus. And as I walk around the North Market today, to your earlier point, there are a lot of stalls and operators who have been there for a number of years, but then new ones also. How often do they turn over? Well,
here's the thing. I mean, I think that, part of, as I said in the mission, it's very important for us to incubate.
Sure.
And not every egg hatches.
Sure.
When we have a stall, we interview as many folks as we can. And I try to plan out what do we need next, sure. And what are we missing. And, again, not every business concept works. We'll do whatever we can to help, but it doesn't always work, A. B, they might want to move into their own brick and mortar. And that's part of the deal, too. If you grow outside our walls, Destination Donuts is an example. She got a place in Clintonville. Preston's, they got a brick and mortar and did not stay at the market. That's okay if we can help grow people out. But we have at least 3 or 4 that came from the Quonset hut. So that's 1995. That's 30 plus years or almost. But newness is very important. And, we're not in the business of kicking people out, but I think we have just enough turnover to keep that newness and keep it flowing.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So then we know the North Market downtown, but it moved. There was a new evolution to it with the addition at Bridge Park.
Yes.
How did the Bridge Park evolution come to life?
That was so obviously we used to have a market system here. We had 4, sure. And then we're the last one standing. My board president at the time knew Brent Crawford and Bob Hoyne and said, hey, They were trying to get a grocery at this Bridge Park thing. And I'd never been up there, by the way. I don't think I'd been north of Lane Avenue since I moved back to Columbus, but I even got a car to go. I didn't even have to go up there. If you remember those from a little bit back, but, he said they wanted a grocery, as most developers always say, we want a grocery, we're getting a grocery, and none of them get one.
Correct.
So he's like, they want to meet with you and maybe another North Market. I said, well, I want them to know before I even come up there that this isn't a money-making business. You know, we're a nonprofit. We try to be an asset to the community, and it's not about making money. And they're developers, and they're in the business of making money.
Right.
He said, no, they want that for the community and so forth. So I had a meeting with 20 people in the room, and I said the exact same thing. Again, I said, look, if you want to make money, you're talking to the wrong guy here.
Sure.
I said, but I think we can bring you a great product, a great brand. And, you know, I would love to expand the market and the mission, because if we open this, well, then I have 18 more stalls that I can start new businesses and bring them up here and so forth and grow businesses. And they said, we're all about it. So we signed on. Well, we opened in November of 2020. So we're 5 years this year. Wow. And like I said, about 18 stalls. And it's been great. And some merchants have grown out of downtown and opened one up there. And mostly it's all new businesses, because I didn't want a duplication. But the other part of it was I knew I wouldn't cannibalize, because, you know, and love you, Dublin, but it's a lot of folks in Dublin, they just don't come downtown. I'm not mad at you.
Right.
So we took it to them, and, you know, they're allowed to have nice things as well. So
when you think about it in that context, do you see the North Market expanding into other areas of Central Ohio? Do you get that question?
Yeah, I do. And I'd say right now we have a lot on our plate, and we're halfway done with the thing we're doing down here. And it's just, it's hard. And, you know, there's a lot of food halls that open around town, and I wish them all love and success, but it's not easy. And our model, being a nonprofit, you know, that helps, but you also need a great partner like the city of Columbus. I'd say right now we're good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that thing you're doing downtown.
Yeah, that thing,
which is visible quite a ways away, miles away
now. Yeah, now it is.
So tell us about how the history of that. And I remember before COVID, when it was still a vision by a different developer. Mm-hmm. But here we are today, and it's moving.
Done. Yeah. So I started in 2013. So this will be my 12-year anniversary next month.
Wow.
It's
Congratulations.
May, thank you. Hard to believe. May something's my anniversary. So right when I started, obviously, you know, and I have a board of directors. It's an advisory board. It's not a governing board, but I learned, the city of Columbus is the landlord. We don't believe the communication has been as good as it should have been for your landlord over these years. So I made, obviously, very much of an early effort to get in and meet with city leaders and you know, our leases through the Department of Development. So really just to get a feel for what the relationship was and so forth. And at the time, it was the director of finance. Actually, finance department used to be our landlord. And I had a meeting. I'd probably been on the job a couple weeks. And he said, well, you know, he goes, we love the market, but, you know, it's a great piece of property, and you get the wrong administration, and, you know, maybe they move you to Westland Mall or something. I'm like, whoa. Which he was, you know, exaggerating a bit. But immediately I saw that parking lot in front of us, which was revenue for us. Sure. I mean, it was a big part of our revenue when I started, that lot was better suited for something else. And I also realized we needed to be on the offense, because I didn't want the market to ever be in a position where we weren't doing well. That's a great piece of property. And the city said, you got to go. So the smartest thing in my head was, let's expand what we do. Let's expand the market. And I went to the director of development at the time, which was Director Shoney back then. And he started about the same time I did. And I pitched this to him. And he said, you know, that's interesting. And he thought about it. And this was sort of the end of Coleman, right before Mayor Ginther. And when Ginther was elected, it was like, okay, let's really have this conversation. And we decided to go to a request for proposal. And, you know, we had 9 applicants, developers that wanted to come in and do something. So the interest was very, very good. We signed on. We chose one developer that did not work out, which is fine.
And what year was this?
Oh God. All right. So I pitched it in 2012 when I started, or 2013 when I started. And then we started the RFP process. Is that 16?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking we started looking at RFPs. Maybe we announced in 17. I mean, it's been that long.
And when you were putting the RFP out, or when you were having the early conversations with Steve Shoney, did you have a vision of what you thought it would be?
100%.
Did you? Is it reflective?
I wanted, yeah. I mean, this is pretty spot on, if not better than I would have thought. I mean, I wanted density.
Right.
Because you have to realize we have, you know, this is a 175 apartments. Those people all have refrigerators and stoves, so they can cook, they can buy produce, they can buy ground beef and fresh fish. And then the other 225 are hotel rooms, which, you know, that's a lot of density. That's a lot of people coming through. And people also have to realize we're a micro economy. I don't need these merchants, like the butcher doesn't need 10,000 extra people coming through a week.
Right.
You know, 100 people buying steaks from him a week is a game changer. 100 people buying produce from Matt Miner from Mini Super, that's a game changer. So, you know, that was number one for me. Well, perpetuity, to make sure we secured where we're going to be for the rest of our lives. Number two, clearly, was density for the merchants, you know, people. And we got an expansion of the market, which we have for 15,000 square foot expansion of the market, in addition to merchant building.
So the RFP goes out. You have all of these responses.
We do.
You've selected someone. Then what happens?
Oh, gosh. I think I blocked some of it out. You know, I think it was an ambitious proposal that these folks just, they couldn't put it together in the end. And, you know, that's no harm, no foul. But then they brought another person in, which ended up being Rockbridge, and Jimmy Merkel. And in the end, they just sort of said, okay, you run with this. And then Jimmy brings in Jeff Edwards, which is fantastic. Right. So I would say no one failed here. Right. It was an evolution of how it worked out. And then Jimmy and Jeff came up with a different sort of plan and building, which I think is perfect and better suited than anything we thought we could get. So people in then the pandemic happened. And then then there was that part, and then everything got paused again. We were on board with Jimmy and Jeff, and then that comes, and then everything was paused again. Which, you know, our timing was just the Hilton. It was too late for them to stop. Sure. So they built that during a pandemic. We were just about the point to get started, and then that hit, so the timing wasn't right. So we paused again for a couple of years. I mean, a lot happened, by the way. Just nobody pounding in the ground, but there was another pause. So from a construction nerd standpoint, that is an incredibly tight site to have had that vision. It's a postage stamp. Correct. Yeah. For those of you who may not have ever been to the North Market, the parking lot is surrounded parallel streets. Yeah. An alley, Wall Street, Vine Street, Park Street, and Spruce Street. Let's put as much equipment as we possibly can. There's 130 some parking spaces. It's turning into a 32-story building. Which is wild. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the way I thought of it, and you know, luckily that Jimmy and Jeff. It's like, I mean, let's look at big cities, which I've lived in a few. Sure. You know, you build 100-story buildings in Manhattan on a nothing space. You know, that's vertical. We are downtown. You go vertical. I think for people who may not be familiar with downtown or the landscape, the history of downtown, they might have been surprised about what was uncovered. For those of us who live downtown, we know, or we knew as this project was moving forward, that was going to be part of the equation. The Old North Graveyard. There we are. Which I have no issue talking about. As I told you, I think it's an important part of our history. And, you know, we and the development group righted the wrongs of 150 years. That's right. So when the city was growing, pardon me, as I said, we were the north end of town and Columbus was growing, the city, the original graveyard in the city was the Old North Graveyard. And it wasn't just our parking lot, by the way.
Right.
It was a lot of area around it, although
Correct.
people like to think it was just our lot.
Just
but it was a fair amount of the what's called the North Market Historic District. So the city said, we need to relocate these folks.
Sure.
Because the city is expanding. And that's what they did for the most part. If there was a gravestone, you got moved to Green Lawn. But in those days, if you didn't have the means, and Cousin Eddie passes away, you went down in the middle of the night and you buried him with no stone anywhere you could find in a graveyard. So there were a lot of folks that they didn't know were there. I think the technology didn't exist as to a sonar or whatever we did over the years. And so there was a fair amount of folks that didn't have stones that, again, they were buried in the middle of the night and so forth, that just were there for that long. So when this project started, that was a big part of it. Everybody knew there was something there.
Sure.
Nobody knew how many or how few. And I think it was ground penetrating sonar is what they called this thing. And I saw some of these things, and it showed you, you could see the old spots, those were empty, but then there was lots of other little things because these folks weren't in caskets. They weren't in anything. They were just sort of buried very shallow because think about it. You're not digging a 6-foot hole.
Right.
So we did that sonar, the developer did, and everybody has been removed and relocated.
How long was the process once that was uncovered? And was that part of what you were expecting in the schedule?
Yes. And we knew there wasn't nothing.
Right.
But nobody knew how many.
Right.
And also it's a very delicate situation.
Sure.
We had archaeologists there. There was more than expected.
Sure.
And the archaeologists spent a lot more time because they needed to get it done. So, that probably, I bet you, if I recall, it's maybe an extra 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
To get that done properly.
So that process is now complete.
Yeah, it's been done since 22.
You've moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us or share about what the merchant building is. So you've got hotel, you've got office, you've got apartment, number of stories, amenities.
So 32, and the top part, and I can't remember exactly floors, but the residential are the higher floors. There's a glass piece and sort of a brick piece. But the apartments are the higher floors. And there's also, Jimmy's doing a club up there, and there's an amenity level and those sorts of things. Then the hotel, like I said, the hotel's about 225 rooms. Ground floor for him, he will have his own restaurant, as him and Jeff do, like Chouette and Hank's, something, and also they create their own brand. It won't be a national flag type hotel. He does his own thing. So that will be, and the property's condoed out now. So 59 Spruce is still the city's my landlord, our existing building, which is obviously staying. The middle 15,000 square feet will be an expansion of the market. And that's about 7 or 8 new merchants and a big bar. And that's ours. And then you can cross through into the hotel and that ground floor of that building. So it'll be pretty fluid. 6 stories of parking. People like to park here, and I'm okay with that. We're going to have parking for you.
Which, by the way, let everyone know that there is parking.
There is parking in the garage at Vine Street, the convention center, and is about 1 minute longer than our parking lot as a walk. And we still validate for that.
You are open for business.
We're open for business, so we've never not had parking and validated parking. But we'll have the second floor parking be dedicated to the market, so you'll be able to walk right in from the parking. It'll take you in the mezzanine level where you sit upstairs by Hot Chicken. So that'll be
awesome.
Straight through, and obviously still validated and all that bit. And then our building, we've done, again, thanks to the city of Columbus, we've done a ton of renovations because we needed to polish our apple.
Right.
Again, as I talk about Cleveland, you don't polish the apple, you spend $70 million 20 years from now. So, new energy efficient lighting, a lot of painting, new bathrooms, all these things that you may or may not notice when you come in now, that we've spent a lot of money to get our building. And again, we're not trying to make it brand new and shiny like this thing, but old buildings. I mean, that building's from the 1800s. So we've done a lot of work to get our building, 59 Spruce, ready for the rest of this project.
And I've seen a couple of articles with renderings of what the North Market downtown will look like. Mm-hmm. What is the plan beyond the sprucing up? Will there be additional space for stalls? Are we reworking the interior completely?
59, our existing building, we're doing the freshening up, but pretty much that will stay sort of the same setup. The new expansion, the ground floor, like I said, about 7 or 8 new businesses, including a bar. Totally different look. We're working with Grad, who's done a lot of great work around town, and Racili's our partner in helping us build that. Awesome. Yeah, excited. Great to work with both of them. The second floor will be a dedicated event space, which when it's not rented for private usage, it'll be programmed with other things for the community. Wow. So I want it to be always active because private events has been a new part of our revenue stream since I started. We rent the whole market. For example, the Women's Final Four was here a couple of years back. They rented the whole market for a party, 1,000 people. But we never had a dedicated space for it. It was sort of rent all the market or some of the mezzanine or little outdoors. But now we'll have a space where you can have, a community meeting, a wedding, a bar mitzvah. You can rent that space. And when it's not rented, like I said, we'll do fun things in there with, Columbus Children's Theater and art and such. So that's something new and important. Again, being a nonprofit, there's only so many revenue streams we have, and we can't count on just charging the merchants more for rent to pay the bills. So
I think as you've shared this story today, and you've now been at the market for 10 plus years, it's a lot of vision that you put into activation when you're talking about Dublin and you're talking about the tower and everything else. What do you see once these spaces are all activated? What is the future of the North Market brand in Central Ohio?
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I believe that, again, number one is with what we're doing downtown, it's secured where we are in perpetuity, first and foremost. And then, again, we're creating that density, which, like I said, the merchants, we all need customers. We need people. I think we're obviously adding a great deal to downtown Columbus with this building. As far as for convention tourism and locals alike. So that's a big deal. We're always evolving. I always say that this is our first one burned down, the Quonset hut here. This is our 4th iteration of the market here. So that's how we've stayed alive. The other 3 are gone, burned down, closed, went out of business. We have to keep evolving. I'm not exactly sure what that is. The most important thing is the right merchants. Right. Because that's why they come to the market. They don't come to see me. They come there for those folks, and having the right mix. And that's an always evolving. And as I said, newness and change here and there. That's very important. The most important. That's what keeps people coming back are the folks inside there. So, we need to keep up with time. And as you and I discussed the other day, my philosophy since I've been there is that when you come to the market, I want you to see your neighbors and what Columbus really is. And, we represent over 20 some different countries at both markets. And these are the people you may not go to I think the best food in town is 161, Morris Road, Bethel Road. And these are, a lot of these folks are new Americans, and not everybody gets out to those parts. So we have a sampling of all that. I mean, when you come in the market, you're like, oh, this is what Columbus looks like. This is who lives here. So, we can always be better at that. We can always keep trying to find these. And I'm always, what's that next thing? What community has moved here and needs to be represented? Those things are very important to us.
One of the questions that I ask people is, we have heard about the term or the phrase, the Columbus way. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, having lived somewhere else, come back and been a driver, how would you describe, or what would your definition of the Columbus way be?
I'd say I love Los Angeles, loved it. It's still part of me. It's still part of it. Feels like home when I go back, although I'm not ever going full time there again. But it's much more collaborative. I feel like everybody to help with change or to do interesting things here as a phone call or two away. That's not how Los Angeles is.
Right.
That's not how San Francisco. That's not how Chicago is. I really, truly believe that you can make things happen more quickly here and get through to the right people to make things happen more than anywhere else I've ever lived. So I would say that's the collaborative effort and people willing to take the call and have that conversation. And I've always said, I think, and when I skipped one thing, the main reason I came back to Columbus is I brought a food truck from LA here, which I have PTSD from that. I was one of the original food trucks in the beginning of the food truck thing here. And that was my big idea because I wasn't sure what I was going to do in life. And it went really well. It was the hardest job I've ever had, by the way. And that made me realize that, because it was new here. There was Mikey's Late Night.
Sure.
And there was me, pretty much. It was the cheesy truck, by the way, if anybody, I don't think it's still on the road. But, and I right away, I was like, people want one step out of the box. They don't want more of the same here.
That's right.
And I think too often, and it would be too critical, but we often just sort of keep going at the same things. And people, the people moving here, the people live here, I think they want a little more. And one step out of the box, I think, is also another thing, I guess, to answer your question.
I think that's part of the reason why you are Power 125 with Columbus Business First, because you recognize that need and you fill a lot of that void and you see the vision for the future. So Columbus is lucky to have you back.
Well, that's nice of you to say. Thank you. Very kind.
Thank you so much for your time today. And make sure that if you get a chance to go and see the North Market, if you sneak upstairs to the backside where the parking lot is, you might be able to catch a glimpse of some of the construction that's happening.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you.